Discover how a cleaning lady's daughter creates a heartwarming $866 million miracle, transforming lives. Maya stepped out of her small apartment and into the morning sun, her heart swelling with dreams larger than the town she lived in. She glanced down the familiar streets, where every brick and sidewalk crack told a story of resilience. Her mother, a dedicated cleaning lady, had toiled day after day, scrubbing floors and washing windows, just to make ends meet. Each sacrifice was a lesson for Maya, who held onto those lessons like a lifeline, a testament of hard work and the enduring spirit of community. As Maya walked, she could almost hear her mother's laughter, feel the warmth of her embrace. Always be kind, her mother used to say, because kindness makes the world spin a little easier. Fresh out of college, Maya yearned to create something impactful, to give back to the neighborhood that had shaped her. Little did she know that her world would soon shift in unimaginable ways. One frantic afternoon, the news spread like wildfire: the local community center was in jeopardy of closing. Panic gripped Maya as she recalled the laughter of children echoing in its halls, the proud veterans' stories that inspired her, and the hands that had reached out in friendship during tough times. Not the center, she gasped as fear electrified her heart. It was more than just a building. It was the heartbeat of their community, the very backbone of connection. Determined, Maya organized a meeting in the center's main room, filled with familiar faces who shared her love for the space. "We can't let them take it away," Maya exclaimed, her voice trembling with intensity. Eyes lit up, and voices buzzed. Hope crackled in the air. They brainstormed ways to save it, visions of a new initiative sparking excitement. Yet doubt loomed just outside. "You all can't possibly pull this off," sneered a local businessman, dismissing them with a wave. Maya felt her heart drop, but that doubt reignited a fire within her. If her mother had taught her one thing, it was that they were capable of creating change, no matter how small their means. They focused on their strengths: a community bake sale, a local business collaboration, all leading to a socially responsible initiative that could save the center. Just when their efforts started to garner attention, a scandal erupted. Accusations surfaced, painting Maya and her neighbors in a negative light. "Who do you think you are?" the critics whispered, their words cutting deep. It hurt to see their community and their mission undermined, but Maya refused to back down. Holding her head high, she rallied everyone, her voice stronger than ever. With each stand, they would face down the prejudice that sought to erase the center's legacy. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As tensions escalated, the community stood by Maya, their clenched fists and shining eyes a testament to their resolve. In that moment, the air was thick with possibility. Could they rise above the challenges, reclaim their center, and affirm the vibrant spirit of their town? Maya felt hope cascade through her, igniting strength she didn't know she had. She could already see its sweaty hands baking pies, kids crafting memories, veterans sharing tales. They were building something greater than themselves. But as the days marched on, a heavy question lingered in the air, a challenge on the horizon that threatened to tear it all apart. Would the bonds they forged hold strong, or would they crumble in the face of adversity? What awaited them next? The sun dipped low as the community gathered outside the center, their faces a blend of weariness and determination. Rumors swirled about the impending vote to decide the center's fate, and the anxiety was palpable. Maya scanned the crowd, her heart racing. Each person standing before her represented not just a face in the crowd, but a story, a life intertwined with the legacy of that building. Everyone, she called, needing their attention more than ever. The chatter faded into a hush as all eyes turned to her. Tomorrow's vote isn't just about brick and mortar. It's about us. It's about what we stand for. She took a deep breath, glancing at her mother's favorite portrait, long displayed in the center, a constant reminder of perseverance. We fought so hard to keep this place alive. Let us show them what we can do together. A few of the children, wide-eyed with excitement, shouted, "We love the center." Their innocence sparked a cheer among the adults, laughter rising and mingling with the tension. But even amid this flicker of hope, doubt gnawed at Maya. Could their collective voice truly confront the skepticism of those in power? Remember the bake sale? One of her friends, David, jumped in. "We brought everyone together. If we can do that, we can do anything." There was strength in his words, but the ghosts of the past whispered fears of failure. Across the street, the local businessman, Mr. Harrington, watched with steely eyes. He had money and influence, and he wasn't afraid to use them. The accusations that had tarnished their efforts were just the tip of the iceberg. They knew the risk, yet they had come together, a makeshift family built on shared dreams. As Maya stepped down from the makeshift stage, she locked eyes with her allies, a group of determined souls willing to fight for what they believed in. But would that be enough? That night, her sleep was as restless as the storm gathering outside. Thunder rumbled ominously, mirroring her jitters. She spent hours replaying scenarios in her mind, the possible victories, the deep losses. Her heart ached at the thought. Would they crumble under the pressure, or could they rise, phoenix-like, from the ashes of skepticism? Morning broke gray and drizzly, the air heavy with uncertainty. As Maya prepared her speech for the town hall, her resolve solidified. "We aren't just a cleaning lady's daughter, and a group of misfits. We are a family. If people see the community center as a reflection of us, we have to shine." Each word was a promise, a spark of hope. Arriving at the hall felt surreal. The community's support wrapped around her like a warm blanket, a collective heartbeat echoing in her chest. She spotted familiar faces: an elderly woman who had volunteered for decades, a single mother who had brought her children here to play, and even teenagers who had found a second home among these walls. When the time came, Maya stood at the podium, the weight of gazes palpable. With a shaky breath, she began. "This building is not just concrete and paint. It's laughter. It's tears. It's our history." She paused, catching glimpses of nods and smiles. The room was changing. It felt like magic, with every word weaving them closer together. "We fought too hard for this." Just as she found her rhythm, the doors swung open, and Mr. Harrington entered, a smug smile plastered across his face. Her heart sank as he made his way to the front, prepared to counter their appeal. What was about to unfold could change everything. Maya's heart thundered. Would their hopes hold strong against his looming shadow? What dreadful truths lay beneath his polished exterior? The moment of truth was at hand. Maya felt as if the air had thickened, suffocating her resolve just as Mr. Harrington approached the podium. The smile on his face was infuriating, a deceptive mask hiding the real menace beneath. "Ladies and gentlemen," he drawled, the condescension dripping off his words like sleet from the heavy clouds outside. "Isn't it charming to see such enthusiasm? But let us not forget what truly matters." He gestured dismissively at the crowd, as if they were a swarm of bees buzzing around his expensive suit. "This center is outdated and underfunded. We have a chance to invest in a new facility, something better, something modern. Isn't that what we deserve?" Maya's stomach twisted. How could he stand there and talk about a better facility when this building had held their dreams, their memories? She glanced at the crowd, intuition screaming that if they allowed Harrington to sway them, they were surrendering more than just bricks and mortar. Each heart there beat with shared history, love, and resilience. Before she could stop herself, she shouted, "What we have here is more than a building. It's a part of who we are. It connects us, holds our stories." Murmurs rippled through the crowd, a sea of nodding heads building around her voice. Mr. Harrington's eyes narrowed slightly, his confident demeanor faltering. "And what of progress, Maya? What of growth? You think nostalgia can keep a community alive?" As he spoke, Maya felt the weight of the room shift. Questions buzzed in the air, unsure whispers mingling with her own thoughts. Was she really fighting for a lost cause? Progress is important, she asserted, her voice clearer now, more deliberate, but not at the cost of our identity. This center is our sanctuary, a space where we learn, grow, and love. It's irreplaceable. She pointed to the elderly woman in the crowd, the single mom, and even the teenagers. It's where we lifted each other up. People began to clap, slowly at first, then building into a crescendo. The sound thundered against the walls, echoing Harrison's arrogance back at him. This was their moment, and the certainty of that moment settled around Maya like a warm blanket. But then, Harrington smirked, gaining his footing once more. Is this truly a well-thought-out decision? Or is it just emotion clouding your judgment? His words stung, and glimpses of doubt tugged at her heart. Were they merely reacting out of sentiment? But then the elderly woman, her voice trembling yet strong, said, I have raised my children here. I have seen generations thrive within these walls. We are not just memories. We are the fabric of this place. Maya's heart swelled. That simple statement pierced through Harrington's predatory veneer. It ignited something in the crowd. The sense of community grew, unfurling like blossoms breaking through frost. Do we want our children to grow up in a building that embodies our struggles? Maya shouted. Or do we want to erase the legacy we've built? With every word, Maya felt the energy swell like a storm gathering power. Then, an unexpected voice chimed in, a teenager, bold and passionate. I came here when I was lost. This place gave me hope when I had none. There was a fervor in his statement that resonated deeply, threads of empathy weaving them all closer, binding their hearts. But just as the tide seemed to turn, Harrington stepped back and smiled that infuriating smile. And what of the future then? He asked, the darkness in his tone casting a shadow over their newfound resolve. Maya felt the breath catch in her throat. What would his strategy be? Their unity, so vibrant, could still be shattered with one dismissive flick of his finger. As Harrington prepared to unleash whatever he had planned, the question loomed heavy. Could they withstand the storm he was conjuring? The moment was bright with possibility, yet dark with uncertainty. What could he have hidden that might tear apart their fragile hope? Maya's heart raced, the air thick with tension as she held her breath, waiting for Harrington's next move. His sharp gaze swept over the crowd, each lingering glance feeling like a blade, searching for weaknesses to exploit. You preach about memories and shared experiences, he began, his voice laced with a biting sarcasm that drew anger from the crowd. But what about the children who don't see a future here? Those who benefit from holding onto some nostalgia? More murmurs echoed through the audience. Doubt seeped in, burrowing into the most vulnerable minds. Maya clenched her fists, a fire igniting within her. She had seen the countless lives transformed in this center. The laughter, the tears, the moments of triumph, they were all vivid memories. Those memories create a foundation for the future. She shot back, the weight of her words echoing louder than Harrington's dismissal. They teach our children resilience. They teach them love. Mr. Harrington wore an unsettling grin. Love doesn't pay for new equipment, Maya. Love doesn't fund education. You know what does? Money. His voice dropped to a conspiratorial tone. And I have investors who are ready to pour millions into something that actually promotes progress. The room held its breath. Maya could almost feel the desperation ripple through the crowd. Her stomach knotted again, but she refused to back down. Investors will come and go, Mr. Harrington, but community is what keeps us standing tall. This building has been our heart. You can't put a price on that. A few members of the audience stood a little taller. She drew strength from their faces, eager to stand up for what mattered. Yet doubt blinked in and out like a faulty camera. Could she really convince everyone to stand against Harrington's influence? As the crowd simmered, an elder spoke again, her voice soft yet powerful. This place saw me through my darkest days. This is where I learned to read, taught my children to dream. The audience began to nod, emboldened by her honesty. Maya felt that same warmth rise within her. And who will take care of our stories if we let it slip away? She pointed to Harrington, fury turning into passion. He may see our history as outdated, but it's not just a past, it's an anchor. We can grow from here. Together. The audience erupted into applause once more. But Harrington held a poker face, his smile now sharp like a knife waiting to cut. If nostalgia is your choice, fine. But let us see how far it will take you. He stepped back, his arms folded. I'll set up a vote after this meeting. Let us see if you truly want to keep your precious relic, or invest in the future. A murmur of shock rippled through the room, each word like a bomb detonating in their hearts. Maya felt a wave crash down on her, filling her with a dreadful sort of uncertainty. She scanned the faces of her neighbors. Some looked scared, others resolute, but all were unsure. Harrington had dropped the gauntlet. The challenge was out in the open, and it was obvious that they were now at a crossroads. Maya took a deep breath, the fight still burning inside her. You want our choice? Fine. But remember, choices have consequences. No one can erase what we've built. But as her words settled in the charged air, the uncertainty still lingered like a shadow. What if they chose wrong? A girl in the front row, with tears in her eyes, whispered, "What if we lose?" As the crowd began to simmer again, the question echoed. Would they unite in defiance, or let fear carry them away? Maya's heart pounded as she realized that the battle had only begun. And with Harrington now drawing the lines, the future of their beloved center hung by a thread. What unforeseen tactics would Harrington unleash next? Would the heart of their community survive this fight? Maya glanced around the room, her heart tight with unease. The faces she knew so well, friends, neighbors, the children she taught now wore expressions filled with doubt and fear. She felt like a lighthouse keeper, trying to turn the light back on amid the storm. Together, she breathed, the word hanging in the air. We have to believe. But as she spoke, she noticed Harrington leaning against the wall with a relaxed demeanor, an unsettling calmness that only amplified her anxiety. He seemed to relish the tension, a predator watching its prey. He turned to the crowd, speaking with a charismatic ease that felt deceptive. What will it be, folks? Keep your cherished memories, or step into a bright, well-funded future? The choice is in your hands. Just remember, nostalgia won't fill your children's bellies. Maya's fists clenched again, her nails digging into her palms. Just then, an older man from the back shouted, "He's right. How can we afford to keep this place running?" That voice sparked a wave of murmurs, and Maya felt the tide shifting. The reality struck her. For many in the room, daily survival loomed larger than their memories. "Please," she implored, her voice shaking but steady. "Look at what we've built together. What kind of future are we talking about if we lose this place? Maybe one with better opportunities." Someone countered sharply from the front, and her heart sank. She was losing them. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed through the space as the front doors slammed open. Everyone turned in unison to see Mrs. Wilson, the beloved center's founder, panting slightly but triumphant, clutching a stack of old photographs in her hands. "I found these in the basement," she exclaimed, waving them like a flag. "They remind us of our roots. You all remember this, right?" The crowd leaned in, curiosity piqued. Mrs. Wilson began to show a series of images. Smiling faces from decades past, children playing, community events that had stitched them together. Maya felt a jolt of hope rush through her as the memories unfolded. She stepped forward, adding her voice. "These aren't just pictures. They're our legacy. This place is a tapestry woven from love, hardship, and joy. Wouldn't you want your kids to learn about resilience through these stories?" The murmurs grew softer now, the doubt receding. The faces reflected memories, tender moments shared, milestones celebrated. Loud giggles bubbled from the children in the crowd as they recognized their own parents tucked away in those frames. But Harrington wasn't done. He pushed off the wall, his voice cutting through the atmosphere, sharp as glass. "Nostalgia is lovely, but it won't build a new gymnasium or get the equipment we need. Look, there are two choices, folks, tradition or innovation." He leaned further in, almost whispering. "What do you want your kids to inherit? A place that's stuck in the past or a bright, modern future?" The crowd shifted restlessly. They loved their memories, but the stakes were clear. Maya's heartbeat pounded in her ears as she realized time was slipping away. What will it take? She shouted, desperation creeping into her voice. We can fight for both. We can preserve our community and adapt for our future. For a heartbeat, silence wrapped around them. Then Mrs. Wilson, in a voice thick with emotion, asked, but how? How do we protect our legacy while embracing change? Maya felt a rush of determination. We start by voting and we make a pact, a promise to fight for what matters not just for ourselves but for the generations to follow. We secure funding for renovations, and we also enrich our community's history. With that, she looked into the sea of faces, seeking connection. If we work together, there's no limit to what we can achieve. The room stirred, whispers of hope floating through the air as she sensed the change beginning to take shape. Yet as the tension gripped her, she noticed Harrington narrowing his eyes. It was calculating, assessing. What would he do next? As the crowd readied for the vote, Maya felt the weight of the decision settle on her shoulders. They were not just about to decide the fate of a building. They were choosing the very essence of their community. And the thought pierced her heart. Were they truly ready for the consequences that came with this choice? Would they reclaim their pride? Or would they be swept away by Harrington's allure? The next move loomed, each moment a heartbeat away from changing everything. The atmosphere in the room tightened, a thick blanket of tension hanging overhead as the people waited for a decision. Their eyes swung between Harrington and Maya like a pendulum, wavering between fear and hope. Each face told a different story, a parent worried for their child's future, a longtime resident clinging to the past, a young person eager to embrace change. Maya cleared her throat, her heart racing. Let South remember what this place stands for, she urged, her voice steadying with resolve. Every brick tells a story of laughter, support, and connection. This space has nurtured us, and together, we can secure its future for those who come after us. A murmur rolled through the crowd, an echo of her words igniting something deep within. People began to nod, some wiping away tears as they thought of their own journeys, the birthdays, the graduations, the moments of joy. She could see it, the glimmers of change beginning to spark between them like wildfire. Then Harrington stepped forward, a smirk creeping onto his face. You're putting your faith in memories, but memories can't sustain a place. Look around. The world is advancing. Are you really willing to gamble your children's futures on nostalgia? His voice resonated with confidence, a chilling reminder of the stakes. He knew how to prey on their insecurities. But those words fueled Maya's determination. She leaned closer to the crowd and raised her voice. But that's not true. Memories are what motivate us to create a better future. We can modernize, yes, but we don't have to sacrifice our stories or our heart. We can rewrite the narrative together. The tension in the room fluctuated, anger stirring among the people. Why do we have to choose? A woman called out, her eyes alive with passion. Why can't we do both? That simple question caught like a match to dry kindling. There was a rush of agreement, a chorus of voices expressing a unified yearning for compromise. Yes, Maya shouted, pumping her fist in the air. We can establish new programs, get a renovation fund going, and still honor our past. Let us create an outreach to find grants and sponsorships, involve the entire community in fundraising activities. The buzz grew louder, and palpable hope turned the room into a living thing, pulsing with energy. She scanned the crowd, searching for connection, for the eyes that would anchor her resolve. And then she saw it, Mrs. Wilson, her soft gaze striking with determination. Let us pledge to bring back the community events, bake sales, talent shows. We can relive this place's heartbeat together. Maya proposed, heart pounding with each word. People began standing, murmuring excitedly, some cheering. Old and young alike stepped forward, clutching one another's arms, a tapestry of generations ready to stand united. But just as the spirit swelled, Harrington thrust his finger forward, slicing through the atmosphere like a knife. You all think you're ready for this fight? He challenged, his voice low and incisive. You think you can build a future while glancing back at the past? It's a miscalculation. I'm not here to play nice. I will make sure your nostalgia gets crushed if it stands in the way of progress. Shivers ran down Maya's spine. She met Harrington's cold gaze, refusing to back down. We will not be bullied, she yelled, her voice rising above the clamor. This is our home, and if we stand together, there's nothing we can't overcome. Some in the crowd stepped forward, heartened by her courage. Others looked unsure, glancing from her to Harrington, caught in the grip of apprehension. Vote, Maya shouted, voice full of fire, and then let us prove we're united. Let us show him that we can embrace the future without forgetting our past. An electric moment lingered in the air. The crowd's breath hung collectively, teetering on the edge of a knife. Her heart raced. Would they choose a path born of love or let Harrington's shadow loom over them? The temperature in the room shifted as they moved to the voting area. Would they follow their memories or step boldly into a future they could shape together? The question lingered, lingering and heavy, as uncertainty draped over them one last time. What would they decide? Maya's heart drummed loudly in her chest as the crowd began to shuffle toward the voting area. Each footstep felt monumental, each whispered conversation echoing her own unsteady thoughts. The walls of the old community center felt like they were closing in, heavy with memories, and she could practically hear the loud whispers of doubt swirling in the air. Harrington stood nearby, arms crossed and a pleased smirk plastered on his face, as if he already knew the outcome. She felt a wave of nausea sweep over her. What if the fear he invoked paralyzed them, pushed them into submission? She tightened her fists, drawing strength from the murmurs of encouragement around her. These people, her people, they deserved a chance. The voting booth was a makeshift structure, a simple setup made from the very wood that had been part of the center's renovation decades ago, a symbol of resilience. Maya stepped up first, filling out her ballot with a fierce sense of purpose. Yes. Yes to memories. Yes to togetherness. Yes to their story continuing. Just as the last of the votes were being collected, a loud thud cut through the space, and all heads turned to see Mrs. Wilson had fainted. Instantly, chaos replaced the hopeful energy. People rushed to her, concern etched across their faces. Get some water, shouted a voice from the crowd, while others called for someone to check her pulse. Maya felt a pang of panic surge through her. No, not now. Not when they were on the brink of something beautiful. Everyone, give her space, Maya commanded, her voice rising above the worried murmurs. She knelt beside Mrs. Wilson, brushing back her hair gently. You're all right, Mrs. Wilson. Just breathe, she whispered, feeling tears prick her eyes. The room quieted, a hushed reverence as they all watched. Minutes felt like hours as Mrs. Wilson's eyelids fluttered open. What happened? She croaked, confusion visible in her eyes. The community braced itself, hearts fluttering in unison, relief washing over them once she locked eyes with Maya. You scared us. Just take it easy, someone said, their voice trembling. Let us get a chair for her, another added. Mrs. Wilson smiled weakly at the collective show of support, and in that moment, Maya's heart swelled. It dawned on her that this community, this life they built together was worth every single fight, every bit of fear. She straightened up, catching the gaze of her fellow community members, who were all watching her. Let us honor what we're fighting for, Maya shouted, locking eyes with Harrington. Each of us here has a piece of this heart, and if we believe in our future, we'll be unstoppable. A ripple of agreement swept through the crowd, gathering momentum like a tide. But nestled beneath that was a tension, a need to resolve the fate of their beloved center. Hands moved quickly to cast their votes, and soon the room grew anxious again. Throats were cleared, and murmurs of doubt mingled with hope hung in the air like a fragile promise. As the ballots piled up, Harrington unfurled his plan, a rehearsed spectacle meant to sway precious votes. But Maya, emboldened by her moment with Mrs. Wilson, stepped forward once more, eyes blazing. We all deserve to live in a place that represents us, our struggles, our victories. This community isn't just a memory, it's our future. Harrington scoffed, but even he seemed taken aback by the renewed energy. With every passing second, anticipation thickened, and when the final ballot was placed, someone whispered, "It's time to count." Would they rise together in triumph or drift apart, leaving those memories behind? The moment stretched, and the weight of expectation hovered like a cloud ready to burst. Maya glanced around the room, met the gazes of friends and neighbors, and felt a surge of passion within. This wasn't just about them. It was about the legacy they would leave behind. Despite everything, in this pivotal moment, would her community find the courage to fight for their dreams? With bated breath, they awaited the results. What would they decide? The air was thick with anticipation as the counting began, the hum of nervous chatter filling the community center like an undercurrent of electricity. Maya stood at the front of the room, watching as one by one, the slips of paper were unveiled. Each vote counted was a heartbeat, a promise made, a dream shared. 74. Came the announcement from the table where the ballots were spread out. The crowd erupted momentarily in cheers, and for a heartbeat, hope soared. But as more votes rolled in, there was a noticeable tension. Harrington's supporters were watching closely, their eyes narrowed, calculating, waiting for their moment. 82. The vibe of the room dipped slightly. Maya could sense Harrington's allies shifting in their seats as confidence began to teeter. 88. The cheers were less enthusiastic this time. A knot formed in Maya's stomach, twisting with every subsequent count. What would it take to inspire those who felt frozen? Maybe we should focus on other options if things go south. She heard one woman whisper to another, their expressions laced with concern. Maya's heart sank. No, we can't think that way, she wanted to shout. With Mrs. Wilson still recovering nearby, she took a breath, willing herself not to interrupt. She had to keep their spirits lifted. They had a chance. Then came the final stretch with the last few votes hanging in the balance. Maya's eyes darted around the room, catching glimpses of hopeful faces intermingled with apprehensive ones. Parents with young children, seniors who had seen it all, friends who leaned on one another during the toughest moments. Memories flooded her mind. This wasn't just about a community center. It was about them, the shared laughter, the tears, the bonds that made them a family. Everyone, she said, stepping closer to the front. No matter what the outcome, remember what we've built together. This isn't just a vote, it's our voice. The crowd quieted, her words piercing through the tension like a ray of sunlight. Then the numbers were called again. 93. The room erupted, but no one could ignore Harrington's crew who remained visibly unfazed. A few clapped, but many stood stone-faced, almost as if they were plotting their next move. 89. Final count. Came the voice, echoing somberly in stark contrast to the warmth the crowd had earlier. The result hung like a heavy weight, the balance tipping toward an uncertain future. Maya looked up at Harrington, who wore a grin that mirrored his effort to shield his smirk, lips twitching with smug satisfaction. Just like I said, he called out to the crowd, feigning sympathy. Sometimes, community needs a few new hands on the wheel. Maya felt rage swell within her. No, this isn't over. She called out, her voice rising with conviction. We've been through too much to bow to fear. But as she scanned the room, the doubt in the eyes of her neighbors began to crack her resolve. Could they really stand up against Harrington and his wealthy backers? Before she could rally them again, a roar of approval erupted from Harrington's corner. The results show a new direction, folks. Disheartened murmurs spread through the crowd. Where do we go from here? Standing firm, Maya shielded the fire inside her heart with a desperate embers. We fight for our community. And just as Harrington was about to further gloat, a voice broke through the noise. Mrs. Wilson, the matriarch of their community, standing tall and proud. We've been here long before today, and we will be here long after. Remember that. Maya felt the room shift, momentum growing like a spark catching fire. It wasn't over yet. But could they withstand Harrington's imposing power? Or were they destined to fade into memories? With every ounce of hope still alive, the battle for their community had just begun. Tomorrow, we regroup, Maya vowed, holding her ground as glances of determination began to replace doubt. This is only the beginning, and just like that, the question lingered in the air: would they rise united, or would fear continue to fracture them apart? The next day dawned with a chill in the air, a stark contrast to the heated emotions of the night before. Maya stood at the community center once again, the empty chairs reminding her of the energy that had just filled the room. The echoes of cheers now felt like distant memories, shadows of hope that faded with every tick of the clock. As the sunlight streamed through the windows, painting the room in hues of gold, a small group began to gather. Each face told a different story, a mix of determination, worry, and uncertainty. Maya's heart pounded in her chest. She had pushed them to come back, but what had she truly gathered? "Thank you all for being here," she began, her voice wavering only slightly. "I know things feel overwhelming, but we can't let fear take hold. We have a choice to make, a choice to fight for our community." Some nodded, while others exchanged glances, as if they held doubts that tethered them down. Among them, Mrs. Wilson stood with a fierce glint in her eyes. It was not just the fire of youth that lit up her features. It was a lifetime of resilience woven into every wrinkle. "What do we do now, Maya?" someone asked, their voice trembling with uncertainty. Maya took a breath, grounding herself. "We create a plan. We show Harrington that the heart of this community is not something he can easily buy. We need to remind everyone what we're fighting for." The small group began to split into discussions. Options were floated about becoming more visible, ideas of community events that could drum up support, ways to connect with those who felt disenfranchised. The energy in the room began to shift. The embers Maya had been nurturing were now starting to spark into flames. Weeks passed, and the plans blossomed into action. They organized community events from potlucks to town halls, bringing people together to share not just food, but stories. The simple act of sharing meals turned into a healing balm for old wounds and fears. Maya found herself at the center of every gathering, not as a leader, but as a reminder of their shared humanity. With each event, they reached out to those who had voted for Harrington, opening dialogue instead of drawing lines. Slowly, families began to unite, crossing previously drawn barriers. One evening, under a canopy of stars, an idea struck Maya. What if they created something tangible, an initiative that could showcase their commitment to each other? Something that could bridge the gap between the old and the new? What if we launch a community fund? She proposed at their next gathering, excitement bubbling through her words. The room buzzed with curiosity. "We could support local businesses, fund local scholarships, and invest in community projects that matter to us. Could that work?" someone asked, skepticism lacing their tone. Maya nodded. "It's about showing everyone that we refuse to be divided. We can create a legacy, something Harrington will never see coming." Each pledge of support ignited more hope. She could see it in their eyes, the realization that this was no longer just about resisting Harrington. It was about celebrating and nurturing their unique culture. However, the closer they got, the more dangerous it became. Maya could sense Harrington's eyes watching, his influence looming ever larger. The stakes were rising, and she knew he wouldn't let this go without retaliation. Just as she began to share plans for their first fundraiser, a loud crash echoed from outside, followed by a chorus of gasps. "What was that?" someone whispered, fear creeping back into the room. Maya's heart raced. She stepped to the door, the weight of what could follow pressing on her shoulders. There in the street stood Harrington's men, boxes of materials clearly intended for a new construction site, the very land they had been fighting to protect. "Everyone stay back," Maya called out, her heart thumping loudly in her chest. It felt like the calm before a storm, the air taut with anticipation. Would they stand up once more, or would this be the moment when fear truly threatened to fracture them? Maya took a deep breath, preparing herself for what was to come, knowing that whatever happened next would define the future of their community. The stakes had never been higher, and she knew she had to lead them into the unknown. Maya's heart raced as she stepped outside, the crisp air biting against her skin. The sight of Harrington's men unloading construction materials sent a signal of dread through the crowd. She could feel the tension rising, a collective heartbeat pulsing with unease. This was their moment of truth. "Stop," she shouted, her voice clear and commanding. The men paused, glancing at each other, uncertainty flickering across their faces. Maya glanced at her neighbors. Fear had taken hold, but she was determined to light a fire beneath their resolve. "This is our community. You can't just bulldoze over our home." Harrington appeared from the shadows, hands in his pockets, swaggering confidently across the street. "Isn't this adorable?" He laughed, a hint of mockery dancing in his tone. "A little protest from the community? You don't really believe you can stop progress, do you?" The crowd tightened around Maya, a ring of solidarity forming. "We're not here to just watch you trample our dreams," she shouted, catching the eye of a mother clutching her child. "This place stands for our stories, our history. You can't build a future on broken hearts." The murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembled crowd. Whispers grew louder, inspired by her fury. For a brief moment, it felt as though the wind had shifted, that hope was beginning to unfurl its wings. Harrington narrowed his eyes, clearly agitated. "You're mistaken, Maya. This isn't just about you. This town deserves new opportunities, a brighter future. You're holding everyone back." "No," the elderly woman from before shouted, stepping forward. "You may have money, but you don't have any love for this place. We built it brick by brick. You think progress is tearing those walls down?" "Harrington," Maya added, stepping closer, emboldened by the strength of her neighbors. "You don't understand our community. We're not against growth, we want to grow, but we can't forget our roots. The foundation of this town isn't just concrete. It's us." Beyond the immediate atmosphere of confrontation, the crowd's energy shimmered with something powerful. People began stepping forward, reclaiming their voices, their stories intertwining, each tale a thread in the tapestry of their unity. "I met my husband at the community center," a woman shouted. "We learned to dance there. My son learned how to read here," another chimed in. "It's a sanctuary." A chorus of declarations rang out, stories blurring the lines Harrington had drawn, weaving their shared humanity into something unbreakable. The men hesitated, visibly shaken by the surge of commitment. "Enough!" Harrington shouted, but the passion surged back, overwhelming his authority. Maya felt the tide turning as the crowd shouted in defiance, rallying around her. But she also sensed the fragility of their bravery. The thundering pulse of progress was dangerously close, darker shadows lurking just beneath the surface. "Look around," Maya urged, her voice steady despite the chaos. "Do you really think you can build a future on the backs of the people you disregard? On the shattered dreams of the ones you need to uplift?" The crowd's resolve hardened into steel, defiantly echoing her thoughts. "Together, we'll show you what it means to be a community." A voice rang out, and with that something shifted again. A single voice turned to laughter, laughter turned to applause, and applause became a wall of unity against Harrington's ego. The confrontation became a symphony of spirit. Each of them remembered why they were here. They weren't just standing against Harrington's plans, they were standing for their own dreams. It wasn't just about walls and roofs anymore. It was about camaraderie, hope, and resilience. As the men shuffled nervously, Harrington attempted to regain his footing, calling again to the community. "You really think you can stop me? I have investors who want to build a better future, something that matters. We are the future." Maya's voice rang out, clear and unyielding. "And we're not going anywhere." A powerful silence followed moments later, hanging in the air heavy with conviction. Then, someone shouted, "Together," and it became their rallying cry. Then came the unthinkable. Many of the workers began walking away, leaving the shocking amounts of supplies behind. They recognized the truth: they were linked to a community. Harrington, realizing he was losing control, clenched his fists, but the roar of Maya's resolute community doused any residual embers of his plans. "This isn't over." He spat before storming off, but the spirit of the people surged stronger. Maya turned to her neighbors, her heart exploding with hope. We did it. Tears of joy filled her eyes. This was the transformation she had feared would never happen. You stood up. Together. The energy turned to joy, a celebration of resilience, as laughter erupted in the face of adversity. This was a moment etched in their shared history. It captured love, community, and unstoppable strength. We can move forward. Together, Maya said firmly, the tears now glimmering like stars. Let us start planning our first community event tomorrow. Let us make it a statement affirming our legacy, while proving we can embrace the future. And so, the next phase began, unified and strong. That day marked a turning point for them, a healing, binding them in shared purpose. Suddenly, as they stepped into the future, they realized their community center would thrive, not just survive. Their stories had blossomed, intertwining hope and history together. And it turned out they could create something extraordinary, an $866 million miracle crafted from love. But they wouldn't be alone. Maya grinned, knowing their journey had just begun. She turned to her community and shouted, "Let us show the world what a united heart can accomplish." Days walked into achievements. Shadows of Harrington faded. Hopes soared like kites in a cerulean sky. Together, as friends and neighbors, they were ready to change the world. Now, remember this moment. You need to subscribe now to the channel. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. And comment your reactions and feelings about this inspiring ending. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Your support matters.